Here we have an example of a polynomial with more than 4 terms that we're going to try to factor using grouping. Now to do this, I'm going to use a similar method to what I did to factor the 4-term polynomials with grouping. So you may want to go back and watch that video if you're not sure what I'm talking about. This time though, rather than set up a 2x2 square, I'm going to set up a 3x2 box to deal with all 6 of these terms. Now this one's going to factor fairly easily because of the way it's set up. So I'm going to go ahead and just write all of my pieces, all of my terms into this box. Now, the reason I say this is going to work easily is because I've set it up so that there will be some things to factor out. If you're trying this on a different problem at home and you cannot find anything that's factoring out as you look across the rows and columns, you may need to try to reorganize this original polynomial. So just a fair warning, I've chosen a fairly easy one to do in this example. So once all your terms are in the box then, just like we did for the smaller grouping problems, I'm going to look up and down the rows, or up and down the columns, and across the rows for a greatest common factor. And if I can find that, what's left over outside the box is going to be my factored expression. So for example, taking a look up this column right here, 8ax and 6ay, I can take a 2a out of both of those terms. So I'll write that on top of the box. Looking up this column, 4bx and 3by, well, it looks like the only thing they have in common is the letter b, the variable b. And then finally over here in this column, 4cx and 3cy, they both have a c, or a 1c in common. Okay? So let's do the same thing now across the rows, and this time I'm looking for things that all 3 of these have in common. So starting, if you want to try to make it a little bit easier maybe, start with the numbers, 8, 4, and 4. The biggest number those all have in common is 4, so I'm going to factor out a 4. I can see they also all have the variable x in them. All 3 of them have an x, so I'll take out a 4x. I'll do the same thing then along the bottom row. Again, I like to start with maybe the numbers if you're having a hard time with these. So 3, 3, and 6, all of those are divisible by 3. The greatest thing they're divisible by is 3. And then finally I can see they all have a y in common. And again, if you're able to do this, then you should have your factors. If you are not getting this to work out for you, or if you're getting 1s as your greatest common factor, maybe try rearranging that original polynomial. Set the box up a little bit differently, maybe you'll find some common factor. So the way this one works then is one set of your parentheses will be 4x plus 3y. And the other set of parentheses would be that 2a plus b plus c. Now you should look to see if either of these parentheses could be factored again. Ours can't. I don't think any of the ones I'm going to give you in the homework can, but it's always worth taking a double, looking back, taking a double look at these and seeing if there's anything else you can factor. But this one is done. There's the grouping method with more than 4 terms.